Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Legendarium Green Team. I'm your host, Chesky, and today I have with me The Solution,
Hey everyone.
and I also have with me Hurinfan.
Bonjour.
And today we are talking about the soon to come out book, The Fall of Babel. This is the fourth book in the Books of Babel series by Josiah Bancrofts, and we were lucky enough to get an advanced reader copy, and we want to talk about it with you guys. So this will contain spoilers for the first four and only four books of the series. It's a great series. You should run out and read it right now. I think we're just going to get into it right away. How do you guys feel about that?
Made us promise to do a
Oh,
you know
A pitch for
a
the series.
a
non-spoiler
pitch for the
pitch
series.
for the series
Oh,
and a non-spoiler
I have a
quick
feeling a lot of
talking.
our listeners haven't read it and they want to know what it's about.
sure. We can do that. I guess, unless one of you wants to take a stab at it, I can explain. Okay, here it goes. The first book in the series is Senlin Ascends. Senlin and his wife go on a honeymoon. They reach the Tower of Babel, where everyone goes for vacation. They are separated, and each must ascend the tower to find each other and, you know, finish their story. It's a steampunk world. It's beautiful prose. It's excellent world building. It's not short, but a good sized book. Anything else you guys want to add?
Um, it's primarily character driven, and the
Mm-hmm.
first book is mostly Senlin, and Senlin's a fantastic character. But especially books 2 and 3, they introduce a lot more that you really come to care about a lot.
They do. They really flesh out the story with those other characters and make it even better. So, what about you? How do you feel? Anything else to
No, the
add?
same way. You definitely summed it up. The characters are probably between the characters and the world building. That's what I really look forward to the most with these.
Great.
I really like Josiah's exploration of themes too, because he has a lot of really great lines. And his prose is just beautiful.
Yeah, so many good lines. I was marking my book like crazy, just like, oh, that's a good one liner. That's a good one liner. That's a
Especially
great,
this one, right?
yeah, that's a great paragraph
It's
of
true.
just like, the definition of a man and such. So it was quite good that way. All right, well, I think that'll cover us for an intro to the first and second series, or the first couple books. Let's talk about our reading experiences. We got this as an advanced reader copy, and I know that some of us struggled with parts. Solution, tell us kind of about your reading experience. How did it flow compared to previous books?
It definitely started off a little bit weirder than I've noticed the other books. I thought it was a choice to have it start where it did for the first third of the book. Not that I didn't like it, but it just took me a little bit of time to adapt. After I'd say that first third, things really kicked off, and that's when I kind of powered through and I was like, I was getting really into it, and I enjoyed the rest of it. What
Great,
about you guys?
great. Yeah, here, Fan, how about you?
I had the same experience. When I first started, I was just flat out didn't like it. I'm just like, I want to get to the stuff that I'm interested in. But about halfway through the first part, they introduced some really interesting things, and I just suddenly got invested in the story. It took me too long to read the book. I don't know if that's my fault or it's just I wasn't feeling it as much, but in the end, it was pretty great.
Yeah, I had a similar experience to both of you guys. The first third ish was incredibly difficult for me to get through. There were so many cool things happening and so many awesome, like, world building and plot points coming in, but I just didn't feel connected to any of them in the beginning. And so I was like, it doesn't inspire me to keep reading it into what's going to happen next. What's going to happen next? I have to keep going. And then after I hit that halfway point, or that third point, the tension just ramped up and my engagement with it ramped up, and I read most of it in the rest of the day or two. So,
Yeah, the book is broken into 3 parts.
yeah, which is this the first book that has been broken up into the three parts, or were the others also broken up? I just don't recall.
I listened to the other ones on audiobook, so maybe I don't remember.
I think they were broken up. I started the first one and I realized it's going to take me too long to reread the entire series and then read the last book before recording. So I did not do that. So I got like 20 pages in. I was like, all right, that was a good refresher.
Yeah.
But It definitely wasn't this way where it was focused on a set of characters the way the other books were.
I feel like the three distinct sections were almost a bit too distinct in the story this time. If
Yeah.
that makes sense. Like in the past books, they would be, one, two, three, just smoothly right through each one. You barely notice that you're in the next book. And this one, it almost felt like a jarring step every time you switched books.
Yeah.
And
But
whether
it could
that's
have
just
been
because he was ending or it was a theme thing. Sorry,
right.
what do you want to say, Soul?
I'm thinking, yeah, basically it could have been a novella almost in between, but it was just completely, like you said, it was completely different. And
It could have been a
we,
novella, but would you have been satisfied not knowing all of that?
no, I'm not saying like it's
Oh,
definitely
okay.
required for the experience to
Okay.
read this section, but it felt like this was just like a novella before we even got into the story.
I agree. Uh,
Yeah.
I what would you have preferred it if each chapter was like a different perspective of like the three groups?
Editor's note, pay heed all who enter, beware of the spoilers.
Well, let's just get into mark our spoilers here for sure.
Okay.
Let's talk
Yeah.
about our three groups. And the section that we all had trouble with was Adam Boreas in Nebos, which is where we learn he is at the top of the tower.
Yeah.
Now, our other group is Senlin with the Hods and Edith and the State of Art, performing for the Sphinx. I think if they had interspersed, it was just tough getting like 15 chapters of straight Adam. He's never been a character I've super connected with. He's a good character, but
Yeah.
I never felt like, yeah, Adam's the man I'm reading the book for. No, it's Senlin. It's Senlin, it's Edith, it's Voletta, it's everybody else.
Yeah.
And this was a time to get to know Adam a bit more, but I had a harder time connecting with him and therefore that first third. So if it had been sparsed up and here's a chapter of Adam or two, Senlin, two more chapters, Edith, two more chapters, I think I would have enjoyed it quite a lot more.
Yeah, I agree. I think probably that's what he planned on doing, and maybe he swapped it to this because he wanted to make a different choice. In regards to maybe, I don't know why he broke it up like that. I almost would have assumed he would have gone, which you suggested, had everybody kind of ending with the finale of Adam's first arc at the finale of some of these other arcs as well, because it didn't really affect it to have Adam's storyline just kind of stop until the third act.
Um, I think I'm going to disagree with you.
Okay.
So I agree, Chesky. I never read the book for Adam. Adam was fine, but literally all of the other characters I enjoyed more. But I think because we spent the first third of this book, even though the first half I didn't enjoy, I really grew to like Adam. Like I really do like Adam as a character now, and I think that if it was like broken up in between parts of other books, that maybe I wouldn't have as much. I'm just throwing that out there, maybe. If it was, maybe. Like I said, I didn't have that reading experience, so I can't say, but I think that might have been part of why I enjoyed Adam a lot more this time.
Yeah, no, I can't say that either way is going to be better in the end, but we have what we have, and we all
Yeah.
loved it. So,
Mm.
Okay.
Can I bring up the what is it called? It's not a prelude. It's not a prologue. The part at the beginning of the book where we got a really good synopsis of the last three books.
Yeah, it was like a
Yeah.
radio almost.
Yeah, it was played
Yeah,
off like a
the
radio
40s.
drama.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, like a playwright kind of a thing where it's like here's the playwright bill, where it's like here's what happened, the actors are, and yeah, I
Right.
liked
That was
it.
cool.
So Mark Lawrence does like I think Brent Weeks does as well. Like he writes at the beginning of the next book, like what happened in the last book, to like refresh readers. And Josiah Bancroft did not do that for the other books, but for this one, like it was one of the best I've ever read, just because it was in this like a really cool style that I've never seen before. And I really wish other writers would do it like this.
Yeah,
Not like this style, but like maybe more stylized and fitting for the world it's in.
I really liked the style you said because that was exactly the way I imagined your like when it kicks off in Adam's arc. The what's it called? The viewings where they're doing the what's the term for that activity? I don't remember. I pictured it like a viewing. You're watching somebody else that movie that they're going through, and I assumed it'd be like this kind of announcer making those kinds of things all the time. And he was the one who did the that synopsis for the previous. So I thought that was pretty
yeah,
cool.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I
I
did. That's a good thought. I did not enjoy it when Mark Lawrence wrote his what happened last time at the beginning of his books, I felt like I just didn't like them. I felt like they explained way too much of what happened and what was left mysterious in the first books. And like, oh, there's this thing we don't really know what's going on, and then you read the what happened next and last time, and it details it out. Like this happened, this happened, this happened, and you're like, well, that ruins all my suspense. Now I know. Aside from the fact I liked it in this one, it was much better in this one than others I've read. So, all right. Let's see. I think maybe we should just talk a little bit about kind of some major plots and stories first. We can talk about Adam, kind of move to Edith, and then Senlin at the end, and then go into our favorites and least favorites. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Okay, so let's start with Adam. He's in he lands, he comes to the city of Nebos. He's let in. How did you guys feel about Nebos in general? I loved a lot of the world building elements, and I loved a lot of the cool technologies. The Nautilus engine, the slow water, the black hole thing, the reclamator that pulls your eye out so you can view memories on it. That stuff was so cool to me. The other parts weren't so much. But how did you guys feel about Adam and Nebos?
Well, I'll go next. I agree. I liked all of that stuff. What kept me going though, after it got interesting, like I said, was the change of Adam's character and his lost relationship with Runa, was her name?
Yes.
Yeah.
And like seeing his change, and so like when they take in the orphan children, I just had something that I could grasp onto and really cheer for and be like, this is what I really like. It actually reminded I won't go into that, but I really like that part, and I'm a sucker for kids and stories and taking care of kids and people. I also really think that it introduced the theme that Josiah was going for this book, and that is privilege. And all these people at the top of the tower are incredibly privileged, and they just always got what they wanted and didn't think about what they needed, or they thought they were the same, really. And it worked for exactly what he was going for, and I think it was good.
Yeah. I think that's part of the other theme he kind of works in at the very end, conflating want with need. And I
Yeah,
like that a lot.
I highlighted that bar. I took a screenshot because I can't highlight with our thing, but yeah, it was a really good story.
I think that's one of the few I did as well. Yeah, I think you hit it. You hit the nail on the head. His themes that he touched on, not just in Nebos, but like in all the other ringdoms, just like they all feel distinct. And I like that Nebos was just it was another ringdom, but it was also something to move the story along with their themes, and it was nice. Like you said, it was really cool. I like their weird like bicycle things. Adam's perspective, because he was the guy who was working with the engineering stuff, kinda, like a little bit. Like that's what he was into. So seeing his perspective was fun.
And I really like Duna too.
Yeah, that was a
Yeah.
good character. Someone to root for.
Runa was good. Parts of it, I know this is a minor gripe. I felt like it was rushed, him and Runa a little bit.
Mm,
But
I can
I
see that.
mean, it was really nice to see his perspective as the outsider coming in and being like, why do you guys all have silver spoons? Why do you have 6 houses each? Like, asking these questions that don't get asked unless they're asked by an outsider.
And they don't
Yeah.
want to think about it.
Yeah, exactly. They didn't want to think about it,
And how about
We're
that
gonna
reveal
vote.
that they were once the Hods?
Well, that's kind of Hods.
Well, they were the original Hods, right?
Well, they were the original builders of the area, but I kind of
Right.
envisioned like the Hods, like that was supposed to be the Hods' home, basically. So like the Hods are the blood of the tower. They bring stuff up and down, and then when they're done, they get to go to Nebos and like live their own life.
Mhm.
But then they were blocked off, and the Nebosians kept it for themselves. But yeah, they were the first builders. Okay, how about the death of the bricklayer? Did it shock you guys a little bit that we got to see that scene, or did he just like phased out?
I
mean,
still don't really quite know what happened there.
I mean, he teleported, right?
Yeah,
That's what he did.
That's
So
my understanding is that he was about to die, and he teleported at the last second before it smashed him.
this was essentially a deity that the entire story we've been getting hints that this dude is at least immortal. So to have him teleport right before he died, I'm not really surprised at all. That didn't really phase me. Didn't really affect my enjoyment either. I didn't feel like that was incredible, or I wasn't angry that he's not dead. something interesting about him.
Yeah. I was excited. I thought, oh, that's cool. Because, like, here we're promised, like, oh, yeah, the bricklayer's dead. And now we see, oh, he's not dead. Or I was a little thrown off by when the conservator was like, hey, give back the bricklayer's eye. And it's not his actual eye, it's just a device. But I was willing to go along. He got me. It was good. I think we need to move on from Adam and Nebos for a minute. And let's talk about Edith and crew. So we have Edith, Redelman, or the Red Hand, Maria, and Iron, and Byron. Kieran, did you have something?
I already forgot what I said.
Okay, no worries. Continuing on. They are continuing the Sphinx's quest to gather the rest of the paintings to open a combination to do something. Again, we still don't know what.
Something.
Something. At least at that point, we know something, How did you feel about their journey? They kind of felt like they were hit with setback every time they tried to move forward or do anything.
I like a good MacGuffin in a story. So, and it was fun to see them go around the ringdoms and find out what's happening in the world at large. One of my favorite parts is when they came upon the disease city that was pretending to be diseased.
Mhm. Yeah, that was a
that's
great
good.
one.
Yeah.
Like they're gonna find out. We can't let anybody know. Was it the last book or this book when Edith was going around and she's like, "Yeah, I need my paintings." So like, just wait. Give us a day. Give us another
Uh,
day.
Last book, it was the one where
Last
she
book.
kind of had to wait for it. This one, it was more like, hey, I'm here to get your painting and you're going to take it to me now. And then it's like, oh, it's been stolen 10 minutes ago. You're out of luck. And then it's like, you go to the next one. It's like, oh, it was also stolen 10 minutes ago.
It's being
I
stolen now.
Yeah, I felt that part was
Go
a
chase
bit
them.
repetitive, but other than that, I really enjoyed all their discussions, Voleta's tether to life.
Yeah.
Her character was really good in this book. I mean, I always really like Valletta anyway, but like what they did with her, becoming more like Redelman, I really enjoyed, and
Mhm.
everybody's reaction to that and how they respond to that, especially.
Yeah. It's so tough to pick like a favorite there. I loved Byron and his like, what does it mean to be human? Am I human? I'm exhibiting all these human things, but I'm not, and I can't be. Versus Maria, her dealing with like her stress from like actually getting away from the Duke and
Yeah.
being kind of like safe, but not, and then another worry. Great portrayal of having a kid. It really does feel like that, where you're pulled 16 different ways, but I love their camaraderie and the relationships that were being developed and the conversations moved forward. Yeah. So, how did you feel about Edith and her kind of arc with her crew?
I like that arc. It was a nice swap from ending Adam's arc, and now we're in the, like you said, following the MacGuffin. We're gonna see all the ringdoms. It's not just staying in Nebos. It was nice. It was cool to see Edith be the captain without Tom, which we got some of before, but this time it was more of just we're trying to save Tom and the new elements of Maria and everybody else. It was a nice family to see everybody bond and still go through their hardships.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. 100%. Okay, I think let's move on and just talk briefly about Senlin and the Hod King and that journey. Now, I got a confession to make. When I finished book 3, I pictured the Hod King as a big thing, able to fit lots of Hods. I did not picture it as big as it actually is. I was woefully smaller. I pictured like 10 people in it or like 20 people in it.
Oh,
Not like 300, 100 running each leg and like the arms and the guns and the engines and I was woefully unprepared for this level of technology from the
Did you mean
Hods.
when you finished part 1? Because we learned all that after part 1 finished, right?
Well, I mean, book 3. When I finished book
Book
3,
three.
I
Oh,
imagined it
yeah.
much smaller.
Yeah.
And then when I read book 4, yeah, the part 1, then I'm like, yeah, that's like, it's huge. Yeah, it's much bigger than I imagined.
Um, it was much bigger than I imagined, but then after I saw the cover of book 4, it was actually smaller than I imagined. Because you've seen the cover, right?
Well, the cover of book 4 is that's Luke on his throne.
See, I thought that was the Hod King. So when I first started the book,
No, no. Well,
I
when I first started, yeah.
And I'm like, oh man, this thing is like the size of the tower. I know, which is ridiculous. But I was not disappointed by the Odd King. It was really hard to imagine, though, especially when they said they have like hundreds of legs. And I'm like, well, is this thing human shaped or is it like a centipede?
Yeah, immediately I thought centipede as well.
My very first thought when reading it was like a Hercules bug, where it's got the big horn on top, and that's
Uh,
what it kind of drill through. And then immediately after they mentioned the hundreds of legs, I'm like, oh, it's more trilobite shaped. And then they kind of reference that later.
yeah.
So
I immediately pictured from Avatar, spoilers season 2, where they're getting into Ba Sing Se.
Ah,
But like a million legs, so like a bunch of little tiny ones. So they're all going around. They're just like connecting around. That's what I was thinking.
ever since the beginning, I imagined a humanoid shape, especially after that cover, which
yeah,
apparently is Luke and not the Odd King.
I did picture a yeah. Okay, so we're gonna tangent a little bit here for a second. How did you guys feel about the cover diverging from kind of the past covers? Where let me just refresh for you. The first cover is Senlin kind of trapped in the tower. The second one is the arm, mechanical arm for the Sphinx. The third one is Senlin kind of falling down, signifying being the hot. And then this one is Luke on a throne of the tower with kind of the tower
That's not
mixed
Luke.
up. I
That's
just
the Odd King.
no, that's Luke because it's got the golden legs on it.
Nah.
Yeah, yeah. It
It's the
even
Odd King.
references when he's in there. He's like, Luke's throne was the tower, but made to
Nah.
look like the tower.
That's
So,
definitely the Odd King.
how did you feel about the departure from like a more thematic cover? I like the other three covers better personally.
I do too. Just like you said, thematically, I felt like this one was similar enough to seeing the tower, like he had done in the other ones. It just didn't strike me as anything better or more unique than the other.
I don't have an opinion. I like it. I really, really like all of these covers. But yeah, I don't really have a strong opinion.
Okay. And yeah, don't get me wrong, I did like the cover. I felt like the themes of the other ones played a little better, that's all. Yeah. Okay, I have one little nitpick about Senlin's. I liked Senlin's the themes of hypocrisy kind of going through that. Um, I didn't really like the oh no, our big ship got destroyed. We're just gonna scuttle away in the smaller ship that we had hidden the whole time
Yeah.
that there were no clues about. Oh, and it's super advanced, so it's way better than that first ship we were in. And
I liked it.
nitpick.
I was like, okay, they got down the Odd King. There's 33% of this book left. What's gonna happen?
Well, that's what I thought. I thought, all right, this is where they reunite with Tom, and then it's now Tom back in the relationship with Eden and that dynamic, and then we got to fight Luke as well, and them going head to head. I thought that's what was going to happen, and I was like, oh no, Tom is not going to have that happen until the end of the book. As soon as that, he scuttled off away. So
Um, by the way, that dynamic is my least favorite part of this series.
Which
Yep.
dynamic?
With him and Edith and Maria.
Yeah.
It always bothered me because like book one, I love Tom. Like Tom, he's a good guy. He always follows like what's right with him, and I think he's a very virtuous person, and he inspires other people to do the same. And then book two, that's largely the same. But then like it's been like less than a year, and he forgets about his wife, and he starts like a relationship with Edith, who's great by the way. But I mean, it doesn't give him an excuse. And I know that like that's uh, a big part of what Bancroft, explores through the next two books. But it always really bothered me. Um, and then at the end of this story, well, we could talk about that later. But
Yeah, let's save the end of the story for now. But we can explore that thought a little bit, the Senlin Edith relationship. And we can explore it more when we do go back and talk about the other three books. It felt real enough to me that they are in a high pressure, high stress situation all the time. Senlin and Edith and them, that it wouldn't be out of place to form those kind of bonds. Now, whether you take it like I did, and it was more of like a strong bond of friendship with a kiss that was a mistake, and they both knew it, even though they both kind of were heading that way, But then after that, when they realize she's alive, they're both like, "No, this is it. We're done." At least to me, versus more of a romantic relationship fueling into more. At least that's how I read it. Was it was a more platonic friendship until the kiss.
Well, even
That's how
after
you
the
felt.
kiss, like Tom meets his wife, and his wife she's like, leave me alone because she's trying to save him from the Duke. And he sends that secret message to Edith that's like hey baby, let's do this thing, right?
Yeah.
And Edith is like, oh, I'm so happy, until she meets Maria and finds out what Maria's situation's like. So I think your reading is wrong.
Yeah,
Let's
I don't normally go with Hurin, but I definitely in this time I felt like there was very much romantic.
Okay. Well, you guys are free to be over there in your romantic selves. I'm pretty sure it was platonic up until he thought he'd been lost, until he thought he'd lost his wife, and then he's like, okay, well, I guess if she doesn't want me, then I'm just going to try and move on. Whatever. Let's just agree to have our differences,
That's fine. Yeah,
and
that's no problem.
let's move back up to Luke and Senlin. How did you guys feel about Luke and Senlin's relationship? Where Senlin is playing kind of the fool, the sycophant. Oh, Luke, you're so smart. I'm the only smart one here that you can talk to. Or Luke, at least Luke thinks that. Senlin's the only one he can like really show off to because everybody else is below him. Yeah, and Luke's hypocrisy. How'd you guys feel about that relationship?
Okay, I'll start. I loved it. The parts between Luke and Senlin are probably my favorite parts in the book. And Senlin, you knowing what Senlin's like, and him just pretending to, kiss Luke's butt. And Luke, just buying it until the end. And then like the betrayal that Luke feels at the end too as well. The dude's crazy, but I think it's really a good examination of what people like that are like, and that those people exist, and they are running our government. So.
All right, cut the podcast. Cut the podcast.
That's it.
So Lucian, how do you feel? You have a rebuttal for Hurinfan there?
Not really rebuttal. I felt the same way as far as seeing it and kind of liking it, but it wasn't one of my favorite parts of the book. I preferred, like, I felt like it was getting the same beat over and over again. Not that that was bad, but that it was Luke is egotistical, and I was like, okay, and then another couple pages, we're gonna see that again. See it throughout the entire book, and I'm like, not that that's bad. That's his personality. But I thought like maybe I almost wanted to see some more perspectives, maybe even from the Wake Men or something like that of Luke, and maybe just a little bit more of that side. I
Mm.
don't know. I mean, I didn't like Luke as a character because you're not supposed to, but I felt like I wanted to see a little bit more of a 3D side to it.
I think you did see the 3D side to him. There's just not that much to him. He feels like he is owed everything because he came to the tower and lost and then gained. And I thought it was a wonderful depiction of how people think sometimes that, oh, this is for me and I get my revenge, and oh, those other people, they're just too dumb and I have to separate them, and just all the steps that you learn that he took. And it's like, wow, he's just a really bad person, and he thinks he's totally in the right, and but yet he thinks he's going to be good for people. It is just like Kieran said, he's a well-defined character, but I think that's kind of it illuminates that personality trait.
Near the end of the story, who was it that told him, like, people like you stay in power until you get your head? It was Edith, right?
I think it was
I believe
right.
it
Yeah.
was Edith. Yeah.
He's like, people like you get in power, and then they get killed. They get beheaded. They get poisoned. They get everything, and that's what's going to happen to you if you keep doing this. I like
Yeah, and
that
he's
part.
like, and it's always written by the people that you thought were too dumb to do anything, and they're the ones who pull you down and take you out. And it's like, yeah, it is great. I guess let's talk about the ending, the very ending.
Oh, you mean spaceships?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
like, shh. Let me reveal this. Okay.
Oh, okay. I apologize. Go ahead.
Yeah,
The what now?
the
What happened?
tower is a spaceship or a spaceship builder, basically.
Yeah.
Like, how do you guys feel about that? Did that throw you off that it was so different than kind of the rest of the book?
It was completely and entirely unexpected, and I loved every minute of it.
Yeah,
Because let me tell you why. Because this is called the Books of Babel, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so anyone who knows the story of the Babel, it's that human beings were coming together to create a tower to the gods, and the God of Abraham was like, he didn't like that, so he destroyed their ability for language, and it broke them all apart. So like I kept like throughout this whole series just like, well, how is this going to relate to that? And we find out that just literally building a ship to travel to quote the gods, right? And
Yeah.
I just thought that was a wonderful way to link it.
Yeah. Solution. How'd you feel about the reveal that it's a
Um,
tower, the blast off? I mean,
I liked it. I feel like there was definitely enough mystery throughout the entire series to be like, as soon as it happened, you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. That's kind of cool. I feel like the vibe was just a little bit weird, but I feel like the introduction of Nebos was that bridge to be like, okay, they have some really, really advanced stuff over here that's probably going to go somewhere, and that's where it pays off at the that gap. I guess is a good thing that you don't get anything more Nebos until that end. You get to see a spaceship, which is pretty cool.
yeah. It thoroughly confused me that it was a spaceship. I was not expecting it at all. I was like, what's going to happen? There's a door that appears. Is it going to build like a bridge and then you can travel to a different tower and go to that place through the energy and such? Um, it blasting off was crazy. But if you look back at all the pieces, it lays out almost exactly what everything's for, right? Nebos sends the reclaimers down to collect the knowledge and masterpieces of smart people or people dedicated to a craft, right? To then be uploaded so that everybody can see it, right? And so you can see, oh, like that's its gathering knowledge, and then it has all the people here who know how to work, and it just made sense if you looked back at it before. Not that you could predict that it would be a spaceship, but that it could be something, right?
I guessed it from
Yeah.
page 1 of book 1.
You're such a
This
liar,
is
and
He
spaceship.
just didn't tell us. No, I was thinking wormhole at the end. Like you were saying, like maybe connect the other towers. I'm like, oh, maybe like another tower in another world, and they could like, because this is the only tower they know on this world. Like, there's no
Correct.
other tower. But they mentioned other towers. I'm like, all right, that's cool. Maybe like they could like wormhole it over to another one. But I wasn't expecting a spaceship. That was pretty
Cool.
Nope.
Yes. Anything else, kind of in generals, before we get into some more specifics, scenes, characters, other elements? No. Okay. Let's start with our favorite scene. And Solution, I haven't started with you yet. Let's hear what's your favorite scenes.
What did I write for my favorite scene? Okay. Oh yes, this I liked a lot. The scaffolding where the first time they're like, "Oh, we're gonna go get the painting," and then it's being stolen as they're there. So Valletta's like, "I'm gonna go get it," and so she's like weaving in and out, and everybody's like, they're a bunch of gamblers, I think, right? And they're all with their chalk slates, and they're all like taking bets
They're
on
naked
Valletta.
too, right?
Yeah, they're the
Yeah,
naked ones.
everybody's clear and naked. Yeah. Huh?
So I thought that was a hilarious but still tense scene where you're trying to root for them, but then also even if they get the painting, maybe Tom's gonna be able to do something with it on his side of the Hod King. I was like, all right, it's really cool to see this. That's probably my favorite.
I forgot, what was the deal with the paintings? They needed them to
They
get into the vault at the end, right?
Though they needed them to type the combination, which basically, at least
Right.
to me, set off the engine to start the spaceship.
It's the launch codes.
Basically, yeah. Hiran, what was your favorite scene?
It's the thing that I've been waiting for 3 books to happen. It is the reunification? What's the word I'm thinking of? Reunion. The reunion of Maria and Tom. And it was bittersweet, and I'm very optimistic about it. And I think Maria's reaction was very believable, and Tom was true to character as well. Uh, so I would have definitely preferred and been more satisfied. I shouldn't say preferred. A happily ever after where everything works out and they just reunite and everything's hunky dory would make me very, very happy. But I like the ending the way it is because it's, I don't know. Do you understand my hypocrisy?
Let me see if I can help you out here a little bit. Like, I'm with you. I would have loved to see Maria and Tom reconnect and be like, oh my gosh, we love each other so much. But I felt it would have been a little disingenuous to the book and the story it's trying to tell.
Thank
Now, it
you.
leaves us very hopeful and very positive. And I imagine in my head canon that they grow back together and they continue on where they left off, right?
Yep,
But
exactly. Thank you.
so let's see. My favorite scene. I had a tough time picking a favorite scene. There were just so many good ones. I really liked the scene where they move the Sphinx's body back to where she kind of would have wanted it, and then they have to go through there with all the automatons kind of alive and going crazy, and they're trying to fight and escape, and then Redelman's death and Luke's death. It's an ignoble death for a guy who sucks. Uh, falls into the lightning and there he goes. So let's see. Okay, least favorite scenes. I'll just get mine out of the way first because I think we're all pretty similar. Uh, all of Nebos. The beginning,
Real, the whole thing.
like I said, I loved the world building. I loved the technology and some of the things we learned about, but I just had such a tough time connecting with Nebos as a city.
Even when they introduced the kids.
Well, after the kids, it's fine, right? After the kids and they've had the vote, basically when Edith shows up, then it's fine. But I kind of felt like Nebos was just a little bit too plot centric, almost. Oh, Adam, I got to move this pyramid. Oh, it wants to magically go where it wants to go anyway. I just kind of have to get it close. I need this to happen. Okay, this is going to happen. It just didn't reconcile with me as good as the other scenes. So Nebos was my first kind of nah. I don't love it. One of you guys who wants to go up? Soul.
Right. I was really angry that they did another fake out death on Byron. And I personally I didn't reread the first three books, so I forgot that, I'm sure there was allusions to, his heart, his mechanical brain is not in his head, it's in his chest, I guess, which I didn't remember, or whatever it was. Wherever the Duke shot him that it wasn't. And you're led to believe he just goes down, he does a short circuit and he gets rebooted. And I was just like, Byron's my man. I was very angry. I'm like, he either better be dead and then we get to grieve him properly, because I'm tired of the fake outs. And then when he came back, I was happy that he was back, but I was like, I was very annoyed that they did that.
See, in that scene, I was not annoyed by that. I was annoyed just by how lame the Duke is in this book.
Yeah, that too.
I
Sorry, go
think
ahead.
it just shows that's kind of what those people boil down to when they've lost their. He had everything, and then he obsessed and he lost because he felt like he'd been slighted, and so he kind of went. I think he's just showing that's what happens to people. They go, they obsess, they devolve. And it made sense to me. I really liked the one-liner when Byron shows back up and the Duke's like, "But I shot you in the heart," and then Byron's like, "I don't have a heart," and like crossbows him in the face. And it's like, I thought that was really cool to me. That was like,
I was really
have a heart, you
satisfied.
care.
I was really satisfied with the death of Duke, and then Mari actually just pushing him off herself. And I think it's really important for Mario's character to get that kind of closure, and still see like afterwards, and her still dealing with all of that happened, because that was messed up. I was just dissatisfied with how little of a role he had for how important I think that kind of thing should be.
Yeah,
I could easily see that. He could have been a more in depth, or like had more screen time basically leading up to it to show, versus just like, aha, it was me the whole time and now I'm
Exactly.
dead. Yeah, okay, that's fine.
Um,
Sorry, what?
Can we go back? Because I thought of another favorite scene.
Let's rewind the tape. Okay, what's your other
Okay.
favorite scene?
All right, when Edith and the State of the Art go to the Nebosans after the Nebosans have voted out all of the children, and she just lays it into them. She plays her trump card as the Sphinx's arm, and she's like, "Hey, let's do a revote." And this time, it's not going to be anonymous. And are you guys really going to vote against sending all of these children to their deaths? And it was so good. I read it twice.
I think she had, there's a quote there that she says, and I can't say it exactly, but it's like, surely what you voted in private, you'll vote in public, that you're not ashamed of your vote. You're not ashamed that you chose poorly. So I'm going to give you a redo, basically. And I liked it just like you said here. That was a really good scene.
Okay, so no, back to my least favorite. Yeah, I'm not going to talk about it because my least favorite was really the stuff. It's not a scene, but yeah, the way the Duke is handled, and the first part of Nebos before the children arrived.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's talk favorite characters. Let's see. Solution. Let's start with you again.
Right. So I did pick Edith, but it's not necessarily specifically her. It's mostly just the relationship between all of the characters. And as it was very hard to pick a favorite character because Chesky normally asks me this in every book we read, is who's your favorite character, who's your least favorite for the book. So I knew going in I had to pick somebody, so I picked Edith. But I'll do the cop out on this one that it really is, I guess, the relationship with Edith to Iron and Tom, and just I like her dynamic with everybody, and also being called Mr. Winters and just being a general badass all the time. Really cool. I like that.
Yeah. All right, Huron. Who was your favorite character?
I love Byron. I've always loved Byron. Uh, and when you first meet him, like I didn't know if I could trust him, right?
Hmm.
He's the pawn of the Sphinx. We don't know if we could trust the Sphinx, but like it's obvious he has real, genuine, true emotions, and he's hurt by things, and he has feelings, and he's a good cook, and he takes care of people, and he's growing to be and love people and become a more human. And I just love stories like that. That said, I love all of these characters. So, like a cop out answer would be like I like them all, even Adam, who's my least favorite of
Yeah,
the other ones, especially Irene. I love Irene. Uh,
very nice. Yeah.
yeah, she's great.
I'd have to say, along with Byron, I think he has an incredible amount of character growth that you can really see and you can relate with really well, even though he is an automaton brought to life and given emotion. Like, it just plays so well in the story that you're like, wow, yeah, I could totally see him and I could totally, relate to everything he's going through. So, all right. My favorite character, I chose to not choose Senlin. He's been my favorite the other three books, but where I felt like this book really took a step back from Senlin. The first three are definitely all Senlin based, and this one I felt was more like Edith's book, right? So I chose Edith again. She was a great character. She has a great, plan and will, and I'm going to go and I'm going to do whatever I need to get done to save Senlin, to do my best, and just the way she takes charge of attitudes, especially near the end, where she's no longer like, oh, I'll just go and I'll ask. Like, no, I am displaying the Sphinx's authority. I am here to do what's right. Are you going to vote right with the children? Or are you going to vote wrong? I like that level of confidence she attained at the end and the power she had there. So
Great answer. And I agree with what you said about Senlin too. So like books 1 through 3, Senlin was by far my favorite character. In this one, uh, I liked everybody more than Senlin. Not that Senlin was bad by any means, but he had a much smaller role compared to the other books. And especially Maria. Like I didn't mention her as my favorite character, but she was really really good in this book.
oh, very well developed character. I think Sunland is just he has a lack of choice, and so we
Mm,
see it's less interesting to follow him
mm.
um, because of that. Solution, how do you feel about Senlin? Just off the cuff here.
Similar to you guys, I really feel like he just wasn't used that much. Like he didn't have much. He's stuck, right? He's in the Hod King. Everybody else has a little bit more freedom to interact with the people and do their things and choose their decisions. Whereas Sen's like, I got one goal to get to my wife. The only way I can do that is get this Hod King done. And then even in the third act, where we thought, oh, maybe he's gonna get together, it's like, no, he's still stuck with Luke. Like he's still there until the very end. Finally, he gets his freedom, and then it's yanked away with him. Edith and them go there, and he's stuck with Mario because he finally got to make one choice. It's the only choice he got to make. I feel like in the end of the book was he's going after her, no matter what, even if he dies, and then he's on the spaceship with.
Yeah. All right. Let's just do least favorite characters really quickly. My least favorite characters in this book were the fellow Wakemen. If anybody feels one dimensional to me in this book, it is the fellow Wakemen. They uh, are either just want to kill or murder, or they're willing to follow Luke no matter what because he can supply them with the solution, right? Um,
Yeah, the solution. Yeah,
yeah, well, I forgot what it's the medium. Is that
The
what it's
medium,
called?
yeah.
Medium.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think it is the medium. Yeah.
Of the fellow Wakemen, my least favorite would be Gedge. I just felt like he was way too smart for his situation, and that he built the suit, and I just didn't like his character at all. Like I thought it might be a good foil to Sunland in the beginning when we first introduce him, somebody to talk to. We can have meaningful discussions, and then obviously that fell away quickly because he just doesn't care. He only wants his own revenge.
Yeah, like I agree completely. Like Why would the Sphinx pick such terrible wakemen? Like all of
Constantly.
them, all constantly. Like
Yeah.
the only good one she picked was Edith.
Yeah.
Like why is she such a bad
Well,
judge of
the only
character?
one we see that she
Yeah,
picked good. I mean, there could be others, but you're right. I agree with you. She picked. I think it's because the people she could pick from were out of desperation.
yeah.
This person's willing to come and make a contract versus like, oh, I want this person to be my, whatever. Whatever. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, you're right. They're all just two dimensional.
Solution. Who's your least favorite character?
I think I wrote down something different, but I'm just gonna agree with you that it's honestly it is the wake. I didn't really like that either. Tom was like the only good part, and Luke, I guess, because I liked hating him so much of those sections.
It's
So
very
yeah,
easy to hate Luke.
oh, so easy when he's killing his employees because Tom was doing his Tom stuff, and he's and Luke just starts standing up. He's like, "Oh, now I got to kill him." So he's just killing everybody, even his most loyal ones. I'm like, "Oh, okay." So easy to hate him, but yet the Wake Man, I was just like, you got the Spider Girl, you got the smart guy, you got all this stuff. I was like, okay, I thought maybe we'd get some more out of him. Really didn't.
Yeah, and Hurinfan, least favorite to hate. Who was it?
My favorite to hate would be Luke. My least favorite, I wrote down the Duke, but I already complained about him. But I think
Yeah,
your answer is better because the Wakemen were really uh not great. It could have been better.
I hit that one on the head. Um,
he did a good job. Yeah.
that's that's it. I mean, are there any kind of final thoughts about the book? We'll do our last two questions, and then, but any kind of final thoughts that you wanted to say before we get into the really silly stuff?
All right.
Solution.
So I really like the ringdoms. They're really cool. And I'll give you guys a personal thing that when I was reading this book, because I didn't reread it, I didn't remember that there was there was 60, what is it, 64 ringdoms? I think roughly that. When I reread the book, I got the first paragraph. Okay, cool. I was like, I'm not going through this again. I get to the actual Fall of Babel, and you see the map showing the 5 ringdoms, 6 ringdoms. And I was like, is Nebos like right above that? And there's only 6 ringdoms. I'm like, I thought this tower was huge. So for the entirety of Nebos, until I realized they're going through the other ringdoms in between that weren't named, I was like, oh, it is the 64 ringdoms all the way up. And I really like the watery one, where I guess they were pretending to have a plague. And I thought that was a unique world where most of it is underwater and like the coast is like way up there. Visually, it's terrible. I'm sorry. And then all the way at the bottom of the level, so they're almost at the ceiling for their land mass, which is pretty cool. I thought that was interesting.
It was interesting. Yeah.
I liked all of his ringdoms pretty much. They all had a unique shtick, I guess, if you didn't want to get too close into it and delve into it. But they all had something, and that was unique.
I think that goes back to just a little bit of like almost secret foreshadowing. Every ringdom has a purpose to build this
Yeah.
ship, and we don't know that purpose until we get to the end, of course. But like in the first 3 books, you really deal with 6 kingdoms, and you're like, okay, produces energy, heats the fire, converts it to the electricity, runs the electricity through the rest of the tower in Pelphia, right? And so you're getting this theme, and then we just kind of skip a bunch, but we're like, oh, here's the filtration system, and here's this one. And it's like, oh, that's really interesting. So I agree. I'd say one of my final thoughts is just like the world building is incredible. It's very detailed. It feels real. Like you would never, at least to me, I was like, oh yeah, I can easily see how all this kingdom turned out this way because this was their charge from the bricklayer, and they took that to an extreme. And Pelphia, they made a game out of the bricklayer's command because that's what it was to them, right? But they still did it. I love that, but I agree with you guys. It's a very character driven story. Beautiful relationships, great prose. I can't say more about that. Hurinfan, final thoughts.
Ditto. You guys said it. I got a question for you guys though. Is
Mhm.
there anyone that you wouldn't recommend this book to?
Yeah, I think you would not enjoy this book as much if you don't enjoy characters as much. Like if you are really, really plot heavy, then I don't think you would like this. Senlin changes, but he remains himself. He's never the one like out commanding and fighting really. And so people who like to see that change in their protagonist maybe wouldn't enjoy this as much.
Uh, I
Solution?
I don't know because honestly, this has a little bit of everything. I feel like you technically they're stationary. They're not moving horizontally. They're moving vertically. So you're always getting new kingdoms, ringdoms to explore. You're getting characters. You're getting world building. You're getting action. I think maybe someone who wants a lot of action, maybe this isn't the book for them. That's probably what I would go with. Is if you're someone who just needs like 50% of the book, fight after fight, action, action.
Yeah, especially in the first book.
Yeah.
Yeah, this book has by far the most of all of the other three. Uh,
Mhm.
and it's still not as much as some books. Yeah, I think those are good points. Yeah, so maybe somebody who really wants a lot of action and a plot-heavy book, because the plot's fine, but it's not a reason to read, in my opinion.
No, it's more of a slow burn.
Yeah.
Like I think Chesky mentioned before is when you read the first book, you think, okay, we're gonna find out what happens to Mario, and you're like, no, you don't. And then the second book, you're like, oh no, still not yet, and then we're gonna keep going. You're like, okay. So it's more about the character's journey through all this and their
Yeah, I love the
complications.
way that it opens up like that. Like, okay, so this book is about Senlin finding his wife. Yes, but no.
No. Yeah, yeah. uh, I was reading. I don't know if you guys read all of the exports of the ringdoms, but I noted down a couple of funny ones. There's one that exports debts. It exports questions. It exports fees, and finally, it exports syphilis. Now I
I
don't
did see this.
know. I don't know why or how, but I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I
So
did see that syphilis one. That one caught my eye. That was pretty fun.
The cistern flies a plague flag, exports plague, presumably.
Yeah.
yeah, I loved. Okay, here's something we didn't talk about. We can talk about real quick. How did you guys like the chapter headings, basically, where Senlins were all crossed out,
Yeah.
Adams were all kind of that captain whose journal he'd found and was reading, and Edith's were other people's readings. I don't remember exactly whose her were, but how'd you feel about them?
It was thematically appropriate for each section. I loved them.
Yeah,
And they weren't
thematically.
long either. Like a certain other author that I like theirs, but they'd have them really long. These ones were really short. You get right into it, but they still really hit home.
I loved them. It reminded me of Stephen Erickson stuff, and he's my favorite author. Uh, yeah, they're thematically similar. I really liked parsing through them and trying to figure out like there's a lot of really good wisdom there as well. But sometimes it's just filled with BS, right? And you have to think about it too.
Right?
So
Are they
I
trying to
loved them.
trick me? Are they giving me knowledge this
Exactly.
time? You got
Yeah.
to think, and you're like, is
Uh,
this going to tie into the chapter? So then you're reading the chapter, and you're like, all right, I remember what it said. How does this apply?
Yeah. So you're
yeah,
forced to think about it. You're like, well, is it actually saying this?
yeah. I'd have to agree with you guys. I liked them, loved them, thought they were thematically appropriate most of the time, but they were tricky enough. You had to just kind of read them and think about them a little bit. So, do you guys have? I have one more question for you, but before we go,
Okay.
do you have any final thoughts or questions?
I'm
Huron
good.
fan?
I'm good.
Hit
Okay.
me with the question. What do you
Here's your
got?
question. Where's the spaceship going? And what happens when they get there?
Oh, well, I know this. I can solve it. All the spaceships, because they're in all the different worlds, right? They're all going together. It's like a nexus, okay? They're all building a mega tower. It's like a gigantic wormhole wherever their planet is. They're all meeting together, going to build a super Voltron tower, and that's where they're going to start the next series, a sci-fi series by Josiah Bancrofts.
All right,
So
that
it's going to be.
is one theory.
Oh,
We'll
okay,
determine credibility later.
okay.
Huron fan, what do you think?
um, I didn't even think about it. Maybe all of the bricklayers and all the places are originally from one central location, and they're all just trying to get back to that, home planet. So they're going back to the bricklayers' home planet, where people will basically live as gods.
Hmm, okay. No,
You,
that's
what do you think?
interesting. I've been thinking about it since I finished, and I just haven't figured it out yet. I think it's either like a repopulation kind of a thing where like they are just spreading the seeds of humanity to as many different stars as possible. Like I build a tower here, and then it shoots off and goes here and puts another star. And then eventually I'll come back to that star and build a tower, and then it'll shoot off to somewhere else. Or it's more like a just trying to get home, or trying to bring people back to like the main civilization. Like that's an offshoot. And he builds the tower, and then, it brings like the best and the brightest or the most worthy, the Hods, back home in a perfect sense where the tower functions perfectly. So, but that's all I got. So
Well, maybe we'll get a chance to ask him.
Hopefully,
hopefully,
if you're listening, Bancroft, maybe.
Yeah,
maybe.
hopefully.
Okay, well, that is going to wrap up this episode of The Fall of Babel by Josiah Bancroft. As you heard it here, an excellent book, beautiful characters, amazing relationships.
Great
If you're
ending.
still listening, great ending. If the spaceship sounds weird to you, like, don't worry, it works. Like, it works, even though it sounds a little odd if you just hear about it. But you should go out and read it right now if you're still listening. Thanks to Craig for letting us kind of record under the legendary banner. Thanks to Horizon Brave for starting us all. Thanks to you, Hurinfan and Soulution, for being on this episode with me. Thanks to Josiah Bancroft for writing this book, and we will see you guys in the next episode.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.